He answers everything like a fighter. I want to fight everybody. I have a couple of names in mind. Whatever. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. In terms of promotional stuff, that's not my place. I'm here to train. I'm here to be ready. And I'm here to fight.
Welcome to Boxing Scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Yes, a lot of boxing news this week. Remember, download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. But beyond Canelo, there's a future to boxing. That's right, and it is TSZYU, October 19th, taking on Bakram Murtazaliyev for his IBF Super Welterweight title. Well, Lance Bugmeyer from Boxing Scene able to sit down with TSZYU. This is what he had to say.
I'll do what I possibly can and try and make as many fights possible. You know, like as soon as I finish a fight, it's like we're back onto the next one. Like we keep the train rolling.
What's that all about? What drives you to do that?
Goals, aspirations, money, legacy, and just being the best version of yourself.
Yeah. You talked about training going well. You feel as good as you ever have as you head into this title fight in October?
Yeah. There's different, I guess, different feelings. Working a lot on different things, you know, and starting to feel much better. My style's evolving as it always does. So, yeah, I can't wait to see where I come in another 6 weeks and the best, bring the best out of me.
Do you allow yourself, a lot of fighters don't, but do you allow yourself to look ahead and say, I want that guy next? And who is that guy?
Yeah. I'll go back to back. I want Murtazaliyev and I want Lubin after. But I'm thinking, of course, one fight at a time. But I've visioned this quite a bit, so I know where I'm heading for the end of the year.
There's a lot of talk that Terence Crawford, I think TURKI ALALSHIKH has said this, that he thinks that Crawford's only going to fight if he can get Canelo in the ring and he won't fight anyone else. But it seems to me like you're a big enough name, you're a big enough fight, the word of money would be there for you guys to throw down, and it would generate a ton of cash. Is that an opportunity that you hope materializes against Terence Crawford?
Yeah, for sure. You know, if that opportunity presents itself, yeah, I would love to take it on. Again, I've got a roadmap planned, and I've got a few names that I've got to tick off the list before that.
Forgive me if you've repeated this. I've only seen you kind of like briefly touch on it, and it doesn't seem like maybe there's a full explanation. Maybe you don't even have that full explanation. But what exactly is the deal with you and possibly going over to Saudi Arabia at some point or not? Or why did it not happen in the first place? Where there seemed to be some hard feelings from TURKI ALALSHIKH.
Look, I've got a team behind me, and I've got No Limit and PBC, both promoters working tight, non-stop, presenting me opportunities. You know, so all business goes through them. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a fighter, and I don't really go. I'm not gonna go into a meeting with a promoter. That's just not me. It's just not the way I do things. Not the way boxers do things. So, you know, it goes through teams, and from what I've heard, there hasn't been proper interactions, you know. So again, I'm happy with PBC and with No Limit, and we've got a great road ahead of us, and that's where I've got my full attention on that.
Loyalty is a rare attribute in this sport, but you feel like you've got it, and you feel like loyalty is the best way forward for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm based about, man. You know, like you're not gonna go start people that have done all this work for you and people that have presented you opportunities and done this and that, and then you're just gonna go, oh, there's a couple million there. I'm just gonna stuff these guys around and go to this guy. I'm not like that, you know. It's never been about that. It's all about the long game and the relationships you build from it, you know. And PBC and No Limit have been good to me, so I'm not gonna go stab him in the back.
Well, that was TSZYU. I am Jimmy Smith in studio. Joining us via Zoom from the ProBox TV Event Center, it is Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri. Gentlemen, when you hear the words of TSZYU, first off, it's a while before the fight. We have some time, but usually we get all this hyperbole about how it's the best camp ever. We've heard that a million times. He seems relaxed and confident, but not over the top about how great this camp was. Chris, what do you make of that?
Listen, he says everything a fighter's supposed to say. I'm listening to this interview, and I'm like, yep. I mean, he's just real. He's genuine. And, Jimmy, you touched on it. He's 6 weeks out from his fight, as he said. That's a long way to go. He's not the same thing he's going to be on fight night. He's not there yet. And I understand that so much as being a fighter. I'm not that far removed from being in those situations and thinking, yeah, you're talking to me now. It's really far away until fight night. I'm going to be a whole different animal in 6 weeks than I am right now, because that's how training camp works. I mean, that's how the hard work is. And he seems like a guy now. He's in his camp. He's tired, man. He's working. He's doing the work, which is important, to get him in the place where he needs to be. But at the same time, in terms of how he approaches every single question, he answers everything like a fighter. I want to fight everybody. I have a couple of names in mind, whatever. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. In terms of promotional stuff, that's not my place. I'm here to train. I'm here to be ready. And I'm here to fight. And I'm here to win. They can figure out all the other stuff. That's how I was in my career. Unfortunately, I had to handle a lot of it myself. I hated doing that portion of it. It worked out in my favor. But for a lot of guys, man, that saps you. It takes a lot out of you. If you could just focus on fighting, focus on training, which is most important, and then come out on fight night and do what you do. That's what it's all about. And it seems to me like TSZYU has that fighter mentality. He's a guy, every time he speaks, and this is just another instance where I've seen him get in front of a camera and say the things that I feel like a fighter should be saying. Saying the things that I used to say, saying the things that the best fighters in the world say. So I truly appreciate him and his genuineness to go out there and speak the way that he does. To me, that's what you're supposed to say. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He performs on fight night, and he's ready for whatever. So I tip my hat to TSZYU. I really like the way that he presents himself.
Well, Lance Pugmire talked about his loyalty to his team. He talked about that, Paulie, but loyalty's earned. It's not given. His team has done well. He is a well-known name. His career has progressed well. Come on, the first loss of his career. Can't really blame that on his promotion. Is it this idea that he's loyal, but they've also done a great job? Did he get that across well?
Yeah, I think when it comes to his notoriety, especially in Australia, he had a big following, and he was coming really with a lot of push from Australia, more so than a lot of foreign fighters get pushed. So, we were hearing about him in the States a lot, and you could tell there was a big push. Obviously, a lot of that also has to do with who his father was. TSZYU was an excellent fighter himself, very known and well-known in the States, and made his bones in the States. But, Tim was making his own bones, so to speak, and I think, the promotion obviously does help, but also I think the TSZYU legacy helps. And I know Tim wants to create his own legacy, and he's done a great job so far, and I think he's going to continue to do that. But I think that combination of things helps. When it comes to the business loyalty, I'm a little bit in both directions here, and I'll say this. My loyalty, if I was TSZYU, my loyalty would have ended with PBC the instant Errol Spence got in the ring with Fundora and they started talking about fighting Fundora. I would have ended it right there. And I can give you an example in my career. I can remember Golden Boy did a good job with me, bringing me back from the Amir Khan loss, working me back up and winning a world championship. And when they didn't fight for me, go to bat for me to get the Adrian Broner rematch when I lost my title on a controversial split decision, I was out. So I did just that. So I think if your team is good to you, you owe them that loyalty. But I really believe that a lot of teams are not loyal to the fighters unless the fighter is producing. And so as soon as a fighter is slightly not producing, or there's a slight hiccup, or there's a chance for something better even, like was in my case, where you had a younger champion, then all of a sudden you can go that direction. It seems like in TSZYU's case, they figured there's a way for Errol Spence to put himself back into the title picture by getting the Fundora fight, when Fundora, for all intents and purposes, kind of eked that one away with some controversial situations, and you should probably be talking about a rematch. So I don't know in that direction if I agree fully with Tim. Obviously, he's been with No Limit for a long time, and I don't think there's a problem there. But when it comes to the Turkey ALALSHIKH situation, Turkey's offering a lot of money to a lot of fighters, and he's offering big fights to a lot of fighters. I know he's probably in a contract, Tim is. And so if Tim is also in a contract, he can't talk a certain way, and he's tied in a certain way. Is he fully happy? I question that with fighters sometimes, especially when coming off the situation he just came off of. That was very controversial, and I don't think that was handled very well at all by his team coming off of that. Especially with the way that you're seeing Fundora sort of being offered up like cannon fodder looking for the best opponent possible to shift those world titles to the next guy in line who can be a star or is a star already. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on that. Loyalty is important. But in this business, it's very, very rare. But it's Lance Pugmire said it, but Lance Pugmire, the problem with these media guys is they're mostly on the promoter side. They have dinner with the promoters, they hang out with the promoters, so they never talk about it from the other side. The loyalty is very rare, but it's very rare on both sides in that regard, okay? Promoters are rarely loyal to fighters. Very, very rarely.
Chris, let's go off that a little bit. You said, we talked about the timing of the camp right now. It's a long time out. It's about 6 weeks. This idea that I may be happy with my team, I might be unhappy with my team. I don't deal with that right now. A good trainer puts a barrier between his fighter and the rest of the world to where I don't care what you're unhappy about, but that's outside. Right now, we're dealing with a very tough fighter that you have to beat. This idea of, as Paulie said, he might be unhappy, but this is not the time to deal with it. Is that your attitude right now when it comes to TSZYU?
It's not going to fall on the trainer. It's going to fall on the fighter himself. At the end of the day, the fighter's the boss. He's the guy who's in the ring. He's the guy who's going to be able to make the decisions and should be the final say is going to be the fighter. I was always the boss during my career. I made my decisions, and whether I let outside influences affect me was on me. It wasn't on my team. It wasn't on my trainer to make sure that I was doing the work that was necessary. Tim looks like a guy, to me, he's a super disciplined guy. He's going to do the work no matter what. And even if there are things that are bothering him, we've all been there. It's funny, Champ, you said, I don't know how happy he is. I don't know how happy any fighter is with their promotion and their management. I was almost never happy with how I was handled, but I'm sure you can probably say the same thing. But you do with what you got. And with Tim, he's a guy who does what he's got in front of him. He does with what he's got. And he got a hard shake in the Fundora fight. He's right back into a world title fight. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that, as you said, Champ, he's been built up a certain way based on not only his father's notoriety and his name, but also his ability to build and be exactly the guy we just saw on there. And he fights fun. He's a fun fighter to watch, and he's very skilled. And I think everyone sees the skill set that he has and the ability, on top of the fact that Australia is a huge market in boxing. And I think it's a very overlooked market. I don't know if people on this side of the world understand what the market share is from the Australian market in terms of what it does in terms of numbers and people coming out to fights, and the fact that people show up and actually watch fights there, unlike a lot of cities here. So he has a lot of market share. He's got a lot of talent. He has charisma. The way he speaks in front of the camera, as we just saw, is fantastic. He says what he's supposed to say. He says the things that you want a champion to say. So, there's a lot going on there. And in terms of whether he's happy or not, we're not going to know until after the fight anyway. That's how it always goes. Everything's great until after the fight. Everything's great until something goes wrong. So, but even after his last fight where things did go wrong, he stayed true, and he knew where he was going to go and where he was going to be. A loss does not define him, and I appreciate that.
Well, he's a very focused young man right now. Remember, it's going to be October 19th against Murtaza Aliyev. That's when we're going to see TSZYU try to win the IBF Super Welterweight Championship. But we'll be back, of course, with more boxing news here on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app and never fall behind, and get ready for 168 Week this week.
He's the pride of Guadalajara, the Mexican maestro, the unified super middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Alvarez. His challenger, undefeated knockout artist and pride of Puerto Rico, Edgar Berlanga. It's prime time.
Canelo versus Berlanga, plus Lara versus Garcia, Saturday, September 14th, live on PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video.